Welcome back to the deep dive. We're the place you come to when you've got source material, could be research notes, maybe just recordings of conversations, and you need it distilled. Turn into something useful, actionable.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something that feels really basic, almost universal, actually, talking about your daily routine.
Right, it sounds so simple, but we often just gloss over how complex it actually is to talk about it well.
It does sound deceptively lightweight, doesn't it? But think about it describing your day, your path. It's pretty much the foundation for, well, almost all personal communication.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's often one of the very first things you end up talking about when you meet someone new. Sort of like linguistic bedrock, as you put it.
And our source material for this dive is perfect for unpacking that. It's a detailed chat between two people, Emily and Paul. They basically lay out their entire day, like a full 24-hour cycle.
Okay, so we have these two case studies. And our mission here, it's quite deep, isn't it? We're not just looking at the words they use, the vocabulary.
No, not just that. We're trying to dissect the underlying architecture, the structure of the conversation itself.
We're looking for that conversational recipe, right? The kind of repeatable, reliable framework that lets you talk about a really complex personal life.
Using language structures that are surprisingly simple.
Yeah.
And universal.
Okay, so two case studies, Emily and Paul. What are the headlines on them?
Well, Emily's routine, you could describe it as sharply efficient, very strictly scheduled. She seems really focused on her projects.
Okay, efficient, scheduled, project-focused.
Yeah.
Got it. And Paul?
Paul's day is structured too, obviously, but it seems defined more by, let's say, social interaction. There's more flexibility built in, and he talks quite a bit about his hobbies with passion.
Interesting contrast. So by analyzing their two paths side by side, we should be able to find that that universal grammar you mentioned, the thing that ties together how anyone talks about their day.
Precisely. That structural comparison is where the real juice is. We can see where they differ, which signals personality, right?
Yeah.
But also where they converge, which shows us the basic frame.
Okay, let's do it. Where do we start? The logical place seems to be right at the beginning, the alarm clock moment. Let's call it the morning blueprint.
Yeah, the blueprint. And right away, examining the wake-up times, we see that first clear divergence. It really sets the tone.
Okay, so what are we seeing?
Emily is up early, 7 a.m. sharp. And you get the sense this isn't just a time, it's like a statement about her personality. She wants that immediate momentum.
She gets a head start, basically. An hour's head start on Paul.
Exactly. Paul prefers a bit later, 8 a.m. And he actually mentions this in the dialogue, suggesting he, values that extra rest, slower transition into the day.
And that first action after the alarm, that first step often tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's crucial. Emily is, well, very direct. Sequential. Alarm off, straight to the bathroom, brushes her teeth, boom, boom, boom.
Like a clean launch sequence. Task-focused right out of the gate. No messing about, no pause.
Right. Now contrast that with Paul, his very first action. He drinks a glass of water.
Okay. Seems small, but what does that signal?
It feels deliberate, maybe health conscious, almost like a mindful little ritual. It requires that moment of pause before the day's demands really kick in.
So it suggests his routine might be built a bit more around maybe personal wellness, feeling good, rather than just pure output.
I think that's a fair reading. It's like a little value statement expressed through a simple action. It's subtle, but it's there in how he describes it.
It really is those small details, isn't it? Those first little habits. They broadcast a lot about the speaker's personality when they're telling their story.
Definitely. So after these initial defining moments, they do converge on something pretty universal.
Let me guess. Coffee.
You got it. The coffee catalyst. It's the essential, non-negotiable bridge step for both of them. The global symbol for, okay, brain, time to start working.
Can't argue with that. But once they're fueled up, their breakfast choices seem to pull them apart again, right? Back into their lanes.
Yeah, exactly. Emily goes for speed and simplicity. Makes sense with her 7 a.m. start. She mentions just bread and butter.
Fast, minimal effort, just fuel. It kind of screams, need to get this done quickly to move on to my projects.
Whereas Paul, he allows himself something a bit more, well, involved. Eggs and toast.
Okay, so that takes a bit more prep time, a conscious choice.
Right. And crucially, he doesn't just say what he eats, he uses an adjective. He calls it a good breakfast. That linguistic marker is really important.
Why is that so important?
Because it signals that the quality and the experience of the meal have value for him, enough to mention it in the conversation. Emily just lists the items functionally. Paul adds that layer of judgment, of appreciation.
That's a neat distinction, listing the item versus judging the experience. One is transactional, the other conveys personal value. Okay.
Yeah.
So water, teeth, coffee, breakfast. What's the final step before work truly begins?
The mandatory modern ritual, you could call it. The digital check-in. Checking email.
Ah, yes. The final bridge from personal morning time to professional time.
Hmm? Emily does this straight away on her computer, which confirms she's likely already at her desk, mentally shifting gears.
And Paul.
He checks his phone and email too, which kind of shows that flexibility or maybe that constant connection, that tether that often defines hybrid work. He's checking in, even if he's still moving around.
Right. So once that digital handshake is done, that last bit of personal time is sort of ceded to the workday?
Pretty much. And then they move properly into the professional sphere. And interestingly, that 30-minute time difference from waking up, they carry it right into the start of their work.
Okay, let's follow them there. This takes us into the workday structure and context.
Right. The clock keeps ticking. Emily starts work precisely at 9 a.m. Paul starts, predictably, half an hour later at 9:30.
And the location matters here based on the source material?
Huge difference. Emily works from home entirely. So her 9:00 start is, well, instantaneous. She just needs to be at her desk.
Okay, and Paul.
Paul mentions he works from home sometimes, like on the day he's describing, but not always. That flexibility, that hybrid model, it probably influences his start time even on home days.
How so?
He might just maintain that slight buffer, that 9:30 start, habitually. Even if he doesn't have a commute today, it keeps his routine consistent for days when he does go into the office. It's like a psychological margin built in.
That makes sense. Adapting to the hybrid reality. Now, what about what they do once they start? Their engagement styles seem quite different.
Markedly different. And this is a key thing for anyone listening who wants to describe their own job effectively. Paul anchors his morning with a specific event, a required daily meeting at 10 a.m.
Required meeting. Sounds potentially tedious, but how does he frame it?
Positively. He actually calls it a good way to start the day, which tells you something about his workplace culture, or at least his attitude towards it.
What happens in that meeting? Is it all business?
Apparently not entirely. He explicitly mentions they talk about hobbies or what they did over the weekend. Social bonding seems to be part of the agenda before they dive into work talk.
So it's about interaction, team cohesion first. It establishes Paul in a more interactive work environment.
Exactly. Very interactive. Now, contrast that with Emily. Her work structure sounds like it's defined purely by output, by project focus.
How does she talk about it?
Her discussions with colleagues, they revolve specifically around our projects, and she gives the reason, because she has many projects to finish.
Ah, okay. So her conversations are much more transactional, aimed directly at getting the tasks done. The narrative she builds is all about progress, hitting milestones.
It's a critical distinction, isn't it? When you talk about your work, are you emphasizing the interaction, the team stuff like Paul, or are you emphasizing completion, the project milestones like Emily?
Paul uses conversation as a kind of warm-up, maybe. Emily uses project talk as propulsion to drive things forward.
Well put. But despite these different focuses, social versus task, they do share that universal professional experience.
Let me guess. Being busy.
Bingo. Managing the workload. The feeling of having too much to do.
How do they articulate that? Does anyone mention a coping mechanism?
Paul does. He specifically talks about his long to-do list. He says he writes it out every morning. Why? To help remember everything.
Ah, the meta habit, the habit of planning the habits. That's a really crucial detail for telling your workday story, isn't it? It shows the listener how you manage the complexity.
Absolutely. And Emily even comments on it in the dialogue, calls it a good tip, which suggests it resonates even if her focus is different. That organizational aspect appeals.
Okay, so whether it's project-driven intensity or socially driven intensity, it sounds like they both need a break eventually.
They do, and interestingly, midday brings them back into alignment, schedule-wise. Lunchtime hits for both of them right at 12:00.
A temporary truce in their schedule divergence. But what do they choose for lunch? Does it reflect their overall approaches?
You bet it does. Emily, sticking to her theme of speed and simplicity, eats something fast. She mentions a sandwich.
Functional fuel again. The break can't derail the project momentum. Efficiency dictates the choice.
Exactly. Paul, meanwhile, consistent with his value-driven approach, opts for something different, a light and fresh salad.
And does he just say salad? Or does he add that qualitative layer again?
He does. He calls it a great choice, which again signals that deliberate decision. Maybe healthier, maybe to avoid that afternoon slump. It's a small investment of thought for a better outcome later.
That's consistent. Okay, so they power through the afternoon. How does the workday wrap up?
It ends, much like the morning began, with that slight time difference.
Hmm.
Emily stops promptly at 5 p.m. She seems to prioritize reclaiming her personal time right on the dot.
Okay. And Paul.
His workday is described as a little longer. He stops at 5:30 p.m. That extra half hour of professional time means his transition into the evening needs to be pretty efficient if he wants to fit things in.
Right, that 30 minutes of personal time needs to be deployed strategically. Okay, so this takes us out of the office or home office and into the evening. Let's track that transition. Exercise, dinner, and relaxation.
Yeah, how do they shift gears? Paul uses that immediate post-work window for something quite active. He goes to the gym for a full hour.
An hour. That's a decent chunk of time right after finishing work. What's his stated motivation?
It's very clear, very upfront. He says he wants to feel good afterward. It seems like an active physical release is necessary for him, perhaps after that longer, more socially or mentally demanding workday.
Okay, active physical restoration. What about Emily? How does she transition?
Her choice is gentler, but it sounds just as deliberate. She takes a 30-minute walk, not high intensity, but purposeful,
Where does she walk?
in a nearby park. And her focus is explicitly stated as relaxation, mental clearance, winding down the intensity from her project work.
Does she do anything else while walking?
Yes, she mentions listening to music or a podcast. So it's passive stimulation combined with gentle movement. She's not seeking exhaustion like Paul might be at the gym. She's seeking decompression.
So in conversation, Paul signals, I need activity to feel good, while Emily signals, I need calm to relax. Two different verbs, different contexts, but both achieving that necessary transition.
Precisely. Different needs, different solutions, expressed through simple routine description.
Okay, transition handled. What about dinner? Does the pattern of efficiency versus passion continue?
Oh, absolutely. It becomes even more pronounced here. Emily is quite upfront. She says, I'm not a good cook.
Honest. So what does she eat?
She focuses on the fastest, simplest options. Pasta with tomato sauce or maybe chicken with vegetables. Efficiency totally rules her dinner hour. Dinner is sustenance fuel, not an event.
Got it. Functional eating. And Paul, let me guess it's different.
Completely different. He actually elevates the conversation by describing cooking as a passion. He says he loves it.
Okay, that's a strong signal. Does he give specifics?
Yes. He mentions he tries to cook something new every week. And he even cites a specific recent success, a delicious fish dish he made.
Wow. So when Paul talks dinner, he's not just listing food items, he's describing a creative outlet, something that has real conversational weight for him.
Exactly. And that contrast is so important for you, the listener, to pick up on when someone describes their day. Are they using functional language? Or are they using language that implies passion, creativity, experience? It tells you so much about their relationship with that part of their time.
Really defines how they view that hour or two. Okay, dinner's done. How do they wind down the evening?
They find common ground again here, actually. In their wind-down rituals, they both engage with media watching something, a TV show, a movie, a series.
Any specifics mentioned?
Paul specifically mentions liking comedy shows. He explicitly links it to relaxation, using laughter as a tool to unwind.
That makes sense. A deliberate mood management choice. What about right before sleep? Is there a final structural difference?
There is in how they prepare for sleep. Emily uses a specific, deliberate habit. She reads a book before bed.
Why?
She says, it helps me sleep. She sees reading as very relaxing, so she's actively managing her transition into rest.
Actively managing sleep onset. And Paul, does he have a similar ritual?
It seems not quite. Although he probably appreciates the idea, he relies more on, well, just being tired.
No.
He simply states he's usually very tired after his day in his gym session, and he just goes to bed.
So one actively facilitates sleep, the other relies on physical depletion from the day's activities.
Seems so. But both dialogues note the importance of sleeping well for the whole routine to function properly.
And despite all these differences, wake-up times, breakfast complexity, work styles, exercise choices, cooking passion, they end up syncing up again at the end.
They do. The loop closes at the same time. Bedtime for both Emily and Paul is 10 p.m.
So it's a structurally balanced day in the end, regardless of the path taken through it. Whether you start early or finish late, cook fancy meals or simple ones, you can still structure it to end with a consistent, adequate window for rest.
That's right. They both execute a successful routine that fits their needs and ends predictably.
Okay, so we've walked through their days, action by action, compared and contrasted. Now, how do we pull out the core insight? How do we turn all these specific details into that adaptable universal communication template you mentioned earlier?
Right, this is what we get to the heart of it. The foundational conversational toolkit. The recipe itself.
Let's break it down. The source material did a really helpful job here, didn't it? Isolating those key sentence structures, the action phrases.
Yes, it identified 9 key structures that seem to do most of the heavy lifting in these conversations. They're like the sturdy architectural beams of the routine narrative.
Okay, what's beam number one? The absolute essential.
It has to be the opening mechanism. I wake up at, followed by the time. This isn't just stating a fact. It's the temporal anchor for the whole story.
Temporal anchor. I like that. So saying, I wake up at 7 boin or I wake up at 8 boin immediately sets the frame for the listener. It dictates the pacing.
Exactly. It tells the listener whether they should expect a narrative of early starts and packed mornings or something a bit more relaxed. It's the foundational reference point.
But just listing sentences like, I wake up at 7, sir, I brush my teeth, I make coffee, sounds a bit robotic, doesn't it? What makes it flow?
Ah, good point. You need the mortar between the bricks. That's where simple linking words come in the temporal adverbs. Words like then, after that, next, sometimes before, and eventually, finally.
Okay, so those connectors bind the simple structures together, create a smooth narrative.
Precisely. They turn a list of actions into a story. I wake up at 8:00, then I drink some water. After that, I make coffee. It guides the listener through the sequence naturally.
Got it. Anchor first, then connect. What's the next key structure after waking up?
Sustenance. The structure is simply I eat, and it's incredibly robust because it's so flexible.
How so? Flexible how?
Well, you can use it to specify the meal itself. I eat lunch at 12:00.
Right.
Or you can use it to specify the contents of the meal. I eat toast for breakfast. Or combine them. I eat toast for breakfast around 8 tuvlever. It handles all 3 main meals with the same basic framework.
Simple and effective. Okay, what defines the big chunk of the day for most people? Work or study?
Right. So the next key structures are I start work at and I finish work at. These frame your main commitment block. They immediately answer the crucial when question for the listener about your professional or academic life.
And this is where that idea of substitution comes in strongly, right? What if you don't work?
Exactly. The power of this framework is that the structure itself doesn't break. You just substitute the verb. Instead of I start work, you might say I go to school at 8:30 or I start studying around 9:20. The listener still gets the core information about the timing of your main daily activity. The slot remains the same.
Okay, so the structure holds. What about activities that involve moving from one place to another, like going to the gym or for a walk?
There's a structure for that too. I go to the gym.
Yeah.
Or I go to the gym after work.
Uh-huh.
Or I go for a walk in the park. It neatly defines those transitional or recreational movement activities, especially marking the shift into the evening.
Makes sense. Followed closely perhaps by domestic activity, like cooking.
Yep. The structure I cook
Yeah.
covers that. For instance, I cook dinner around 6:30. Again, the structure itself is simple, but the context you add, like Paul saying he loves cooking or cook something new, is where the personality comes through. It distinguishes the functional cook from the passionate one within the same basic sentence structure.
Okay, and for winding down, relaxing, what structures cover that?
We need that cluster of typically more passive verbs. I watch, I read, or I listen to. These are really essential because they clarify how you decompress.
Why is that so critical?
Because it signals different modes of relaxation. Are you passively consuming media? I watch TV. Are you actively engaging your mind? I read a book. Or using audio, perhaps while doing something else? I listen to a podcast. These verbs give insight into your preferred relaxation style.
Got it. Passive consumption, active engagement, audio stimulation. Okay. And the final piece. How do you close the loop on the day?
With the essential closing structure, I go to bed at, it neatly wraps up the 24-hour narrative, usually confirming the discipline or regularity of the routine. It gives the listener the final boundary.
So these 9 or so structures really form the backbone, and what's truly powerful, you're saying, is how they stay the same even when the specifics change dramatically between people like Emily and Paul.
Absolutely. The structure I eat is identical, whether you follow it with bread and butter like Emily or eggs and toast like Paul. The container is the same, only the contents differ.
And if the activity itself is different, like say you don't cook.
The structure still holds. You just swap in the relevant verb phrase. Instead of I cook dinner, you might say I order food, or I heat something up, or I usually eat out. The linguistic skeleton is robust. It can handle the variations of modern life without needing a whole new grammar set.
It really does sound like a recipe, and like any recipe, it needs key ingredients, right? The source material summarized these too.
Yes, it broke it down into essential vocabulary, time words, and action words.
Okay, what are the key time words?
They're the basic stage settings: morning, afternoon, evening, and night. They provide the essential context, the location, and time for the action. Think of them as the fixed points on the daily map.
And the action words.
Those are the verbs, the energy of the sentence. The source highlighted the most common ones for routines.
Yeah.
Wake up, eat, work, or study or go to school, walk or go, cook, watch, read, listen, and sleep. These tell the listener what's actually happening on that map.
And the formula for a clear, complete sentence is just combine them.
Pretty much that simple. Combine a time word phrase with an action phrase. In the morning, I wake up. In the afternoon, I work. In the evening, I cook dinner. At night, I read. This foundational toolkit lets you create endless variations describing your specific life, but keeps the message incredibly clear and easy for anyone to follow.
Okay, that's a really solid toolkit for the core routine. But life isn't just wake, work, eat, sleep, is it? What about the other stuff? The chores, the fun things, the weekends? How does the toolkit handle those?
Great question. Let's look at extending the conversation.
Yeah.
First, chores. The less glamorous but totally necessary parts of the day. Discussing these adds realism.
What chores came up in the Emily and Paul dialogue?
The most common one, doing the dishes. Both mention doing them after dinner. It's almost a universal constant.
Okay. Any others?
Emily, true to her efficient nature, adds another layer. She mentions she also cleans the kitchen every day. It reinforces her commitment to order.
So that highlights the difference between maybe mandatory chores, dishes, and more specific personal cleaning habits. What about chores that don't happen every day?
Those require specific time markers. Paul mentions taking out the trash, but specifies it's only on Mondays and Thursdays. These are like planned interruptions to the daily flow.
And the big weekend chore.
Laundry. Paul mentions doing laundry on the weekend. He calls it a big job, acknowledging it's too much to fit into the packed weekday schedule. Including these details, daily, scheduled weekly chores, really fleshes out the routine beyond just the highlight reel.
Definitely adds realism. Okay, chores covered. But a good conversation about your day needs personality, right? It can't just be tasks. What about hobbies, personal interests?
Absolutely crucial. And the beauty is, the same simple structures adapt perfectly to talk about what you love doing. Hobbies show dedication and add personal flavor.
How did Paul and Emily use the structures for hobbies?
Paul uses the simple structure I play. He says, I play the guitar. But then he immediately adds the crucial detail. For 20 minutes every day. That frequency signals real dedication and passion.
20 minutes every day. That tells you a lot. And Emily?
Similarly, she uses I draw. She says, I draw in my sketchbook. But her frequency is different. A little bit every evening.
So the structure I play, I draw works for both rigid, timed commitment, Paul, and more spontaneous, flexible activity, Emily.
Exactly. And you can use it for hobbies tied to specific situations too. Like I listen to podcasts on the bus, or I play video games most evenings. The structure is flexible.
And what's the key conversational element when talking about hobbies?
The dialogue source reminds us it's crucial. After you share your hobby, you need to turn the spotlight back. Ask, what about you? Or do you have any hobbies? Keep it a two-way street. Don't just monologue.
Good reminder. Okay, chores, hobbies. What about the biggest shift in routine? The weekend. The great break. How does the structure adapt when the whole day is different?
It adapts beautifully, actually. The core template holds firm, even when the content changes dramatically.
What's the single biggest structural change for the weekend, according to Emily and Paul?
It's the absence of that primary anchor.
Yeah.
The alarm clock. Both of them define the start of Saturday by waking up late, maybe 9:00 or 10 a.m. And the key phrase they use, no alarm. That becomes the new structural starting point. The lack of the alarm is the signal.
Bliss. Okay, so they wake up late. What do they do on Saturday?
Their choices again reflect their personalities and weekly focus. Paul's Saturday activity sounds functional, preparatory, but tied to his passion. He says, I go to the market. Why? To buy food for the week. This sets him up for his creative cooking.
So his weekend activity fuels his weekday passion. Makes sense. And Emily's Saturday?
Hers is completely different. It's centered entirely on social connection and family. She says, I meet my friends at a coffee shop, or I visit my mom and dad for lunch. Her focus shifts entirely from her internal projects to external relationships.
Big contrast. What about Sunday? Is it more prep, more relaxation?
A bit of both, but definitely defined by winding down and getting ready. Paul emphasizes pure relaxation. He says, I read, I watch movies. He explicitly states he doesn't do much. It's total recovery mode for him.
Okay, Paul's recharging. Emily.
Emily also rests, but she weaves in some strategic planning. She says, I clean the apartment a little, but crucially, I prepare food for the week ahead. Paul even comments, that's smart. It confirms her efficiency mindset extends even to her downtime, using Sunday to smooth out the upcoming week.
That really fits her profile. But the main point here for our conversational recipe is what?
The reinforcement is critical. Even though the content is wildly different, going to the market versus meeting friends, relaxing versus prepping food, the conversational structures stay the same. I wake up late, I go to the market, I meet my friends, I relax, I prepare food. The recipe works perfectly, you just swap out the ingredients.
Okay, that's incredibly clear. It seems like this whole deep dive has shown that talking about your day isn't just listing stuff. It's like an architectural process. It communicates who you are.
Absolutely. And the recipe, as we've unpacked it, relies on three main components working together.
What's component one?
First, using those, let's say, 9 core, robust, simple sentence structures. I wake up, I eat, I work, etc. They act as conversational anchors, providing immediate clarity.
Okay, anchors first. Component two.
Second, ensuring that smooth narrative flow. That means using clear, specific verbs for the actions, and crucially, linking those anchored sentences together with the right connectors then, after that, next. That's what turns a list into a coherent story.
Anchors, flow, and the third component.
Third, recognizing and using the amazing adaptability of the structure itself. Whether you're talking about a super intense workday, a complex hobby, simple chores, or just a lazy Sunday afternoon, that basic conversational skeleton lets you substitute any detail while keeping the message crystal clear for your listener.
So this toolkit, this recipe, it's useful for anyone really, whether you're just trying to structure your own thinking about your day, or more importantly, trying to communicate who you are, your priorities, your personality effectively to someone else.
Exactly. It's fundamental communication skill.
We saw Emily's day seemed defined by, efficiency and projects. Paul's maybe more by his social functions and that passion for cooking. They use the same toolkit to paint very different pictures.
Which brings us to the end and maybe a final thought for you, the listener.
Okay, let's hear it. Based on everything we've pulled from the source material about Emily and Paul, we have a challenge for you.
Yeah. Try to identify the single most defining combination for your day. One time word plus one action word. What phrase truly captures the core essence of your routine, your existence?
Strip away all the noise, all the details. What's the absolute fundamental? Is it in the morning I create? Or maybe in the afternoon I connect? Or in the evening I learn?
Figure that unique core combination for yourself. When you nail that, you've basically unlocked the headline of your own daily narrative, the core story you can then build upon, ready to share with anyone.